Now we will read Chapter 5, Challenges of Teaching Language in a Diverse Classroom. One or two questions are regularly asked from this chapter in seated exam. Most of the questions asked in the exam are based on disorder in learning language and suggestions for teaching English in a diverse classroom. India is one of the most linguistically diverse countries with more than 1500 languages spoken throughout India. It comes as no surprise that majority of India can speak a number of languages. This fact has been recognized time and again. According to NCF 2005, multilingualism is constitutive of the identity of a child and a typical feature of Indian linguistic landscape. This linguistic diversity should be used as a resource readily available, as a classroom strategy and a goal by creative language teacher. Today we know for certain that bilingualism or multilingualism confers definite cognitive advantage. Every child feels secure and accepted by adhering to use of multilingualism as a resource. However, multilingualism in a class can act as on the many challenges of teaching language in a diverse classroom. Thus, it is essential for us to know the different challenges of teaching language in a diverse classroom and to apply method for effective learning. Importance of English language. Effective understanding and use of language enables a child to make connections between idea, people, and things to to relate to the world around him or her. In a diverse classroom, English helps makes the connection as it acts as a global language. In other words, people in India use English in their day-to-day life. This makes English important language to be a part of the school curriculum. However, at the same time, we must understand that language diversity possesses some challenges to teaching English. These problems may not just be limited to multilingualism but also extend to the presence of students with learning disabilities. Thus, there are a variety of situations that an English instructor can face in an Indian classroom. All teachers then should have the skill to teach English in ways appropriate to their situations and labels based on the knowledge of how languages are learned. Major challenges of teaching English in India. Some major challenges of teaching and learning English in India are as follows. Overcrowded classroom generally reduce the teacher's ability to teach English effectively and pay personalized attention to the learners. School environment should be congenial and permissive to enabling people to hear, see, or use English, even though English is used everywhere. There are still regions in India where the environment is not con- conducive to the learning of English. The English language teaching needs a new and functional environment, and this may be hard to have. Lack of study material is another challenge for English teaching in India. This is generally true in remote areas and villages where at times course related books are not also but are also not available. Faulty reading habits among learners pose a major challenge for English instructors. Some students read by putting fingers on the words which hinders their concentration. Some students move backwards rather than moving going forward, and many times they read in low, murmuring voice. Learning English vocabulary can be a problem for students as English has a vast vocabulary. In this light, teaching the vast vocabulary along with spelling, pronunciation, and all other grammatical rules can become a challenge for a teacher. Exam oriented, the English language learning syllabus is created wholly from the examination point of view. As a result, the content doesn't focus on raising the levels of communication competence of the students and is confined to solving the examination paper. Learners' ability also affects teaching English. To adjust one's teaching according to diversity of a large variety of learners is a major challenge and needs very competent teachers who are not sufficiently available in India. Some children suffer from chronic illness, disabilities, and some are handicapped. Teaching these children poses a major challenge to the teacher. Suggestions for teaching English in a diverse classroom. Appreciating the individuality of each student is important, while generalization sensitives as to important difference between groups. Each individual student has unique values, perspective, experience, and needs. The teacher should make extra effort to eradicate socio-psychological problems of the student by motivating them and giving them some responsibility. Interactive sessions between teacher and the students initiates communicative abilities. Teachers should always try to converse in English with the learners. One should keep talking with students about day-to-day things. The children will learn to converse once the icebreaker are done. When they talk, they will learn. As a teacher, it is important to recognize our own learning style and culture assumption, as these two things affect teaching. Planning of lessons should be done extensively and in advance. Such examples should be taken which reflect different cultures, and experiences, genders, etc., to include all students in learning. Teachers should use different teaching methods like group discussion, collaboration, learning, fun activities, etc., to meet the variety of learning needs. Errors made by the learners English. At all proficiency level, learners produce language that is not exactly the language used by native speaker. Some of the errors are grammatical, while others involve vocabulary selection and mistakes in the extension of language appropriately for different contexts. Responding to teachers' communications, teachers need to be very careful while focusing on error correction, as it deters confidence and communication process of learners. Teachers can use error correction to support language acquisitions, avoid using it in ways that undermines student desire to communicate in English language by talking clues from the context. Children suffering from various disorders. Learning disabilities. Some students have unique challenges that make learning in a traditional classroom difficult, that is, visual or hearing impairments, attention deficit disorder, handicapped, chronic illness, etc. Learning disorders that are most conspicuous usually revolve around reading, writing, and mathematics. Hence, it became crucial for the English instructor to use teaching methods that effectively cater to the needs of such students. It is important to remember that while recognizing this disorder, a teacher needs to promote an inclusive classroom. Dyslexia, it is a learning disability in reading. Basic reading problems occur when there is difficulty in understanding the relationship between sound, letter, and words. Reading comprehension problems occur when there is inability to grasp the meaning of words, phrases, and paragraphs. Learning disability in maths. Dyscalculia. Learning disability in maths vary greatly depending on the child's other strength and weakness. A child's ability to do maths will be affected by language learning disability or a visual disorder or difficulty with sequencing, memory, or organizing. Dysgraphia. Learning disability in writing can involve the physical act of writing or the mental activity of comprehending and synthesizing information. Basic writing disorder includes physical difficulty forming words and letter. Expressive writing disability indicates a struggle to organize thoughts on paper. Dyspraxia. This type of disability refers to problems with movement and coordinate in cutting, writing, or gross motor skills such as running and jumping. A motor disability in sometimes refers to as output activity, meaning that it is related to the output of information from the brain in order to run, jump, write, or cut something. The brain must be able to communicate with the necessary limbs to complete the action. Aphasia or dysphasia. Aphasia or dysphasia is a condition of language disorder that affects personal ability to communicate. Signs of language based learning disorder involves problem with verbal language skills such as ability to retell a story and the fluency of speech, as well as the ability to understand the meaning of the words, parts of speech, direction, etc. Auditory processing disorder. The auditory processing disorder isn't necessarily a learning disability. It is a condition in which our brain cannot properly process sound. This disorder has an impact on learning capacities of a child, as it makes it difficult for a child to relate to words and understand the basic concept of reading and writing. Visual processing disorder. Problems in visual perception include missing minor difference in shape, reversing letter or numbers, skipping words, skipping lines, and having problems in eye-hand coordinations. Visual perception can affect gross and fine motor skills, reading comprehension, and maths. Difficulty in school doesn't always stem from a learning disability. Anxiety, depression, stressful events, emotional trauma make learning more of a challenge. In addition, ADHD and autism sometimes co-occur as confused with learning disabilities. ADHD, attention deficiency hyperactivity disorder. Attention deficiency hyperactivity disorder is not actually a learning disability, but it can hamper or disrupt learning. Children with ADHD often have problems sitting still, staying focused, following instruction, etc. Autism. Difficulty in mastering certain academic skill can be due to developmental disorders such as autism and Asperger's syndrome. Children with autism may have trouble in communication, reading body language, learning basic skill, making friends, and making eye contacts.